Oh, look at me. I'm unprepared. Oh, my sign's not even plugged in. That's okay. We'll do it without the lighted sign. Let's go into chat. How do I... there we go. Yeah, I haven't done one of these lives. I'm live on TikTok. I've been live on TikTok, but not on my other channels recently. So I haven't done one of these lives in a little while. It's been, I don't know, it's been a couple weeks. And life just caught up. Life just got threw me for a loop a little bit, and that's okay. It's cool. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm gonna get started in just a minute. I'm just having my coffee, and it's delightful. I did bring my. I have to bring my carafe in to keep my coffee warm. Best like $15 investment I've ever made in my life is this thermal carafe. So I can have good morning, nice to see you. I was just explaining, I haven't been on here, and like I think it's been like 2 weeks. I've been on TikTok, but not on doing these lives. These lives take a little bit of planning and stuff, and I just haven't had it. I just haven't had the time or the mental and emotional energy. I'm not going to go too far down the path of what's going on in my life, but it's been a little complicated. Not too much, but it's just been crazy. Just been crazy and complicated and busy and emotional and energy draining and all of these things. So, but I'm doing okay. And I'm here, and you're here. And I'm going to talk about your divine spark today. I'm going to talk about your divinity. I'm going to talk about your connection to source. We could say God if you want to, or we could say your goddess if you want to. I like to say there's a goddess within all of us. But there's also a God within all of us because, sorry, I'm moving things around because Phoebe has, like, here's Phoebe. I'm in a short slow. She's going to jump down as soon as I try it. She's like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be on camera. But she does like to hop up on my desk and start knocking things off my desk. And then the dog picks them up and chews them up. So anyway, so my friend who's not on yet, who will be on very shortly, not on video, but she'll join in the broadcast soon. Oh, wish I had time to stay off. Oh, off to work. Okay, yeah. Well, I hope you have a lovely day today. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, Phoebe's all up in my grill. She's like, "What? You're talking to people?" I am going to. But good morning to you as well. Nice to see you. Wow. So here's how. A little discombobulated this morning. Again, like I'm used to doing like at least one of these a week and sometimes up to 3 of these lives a week. And I haven't done one in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, I need to make coffee this morning. So I set everything up. So I thought, and I boiled the water and I go to pour coffee or the thing and there's no coffee in it. So I tried to make coffee without coffee this morning. And coffee is 2 ingredients. It's water and coffee. I only had one of them. Do you think you're really... there's no more playing around. What? Many people have had a chance. Oh, okay, whatever. Okay. Interested in hypnotism. What is something to look out for? Is there is a hypnotist in your city? We'll look at. Good morning to you. Oh, here's my quite divine friend, who is like, you should do a live tomorrow. I'm like, you're right, I will. And this one is for you. And we're talking about the divine spark today because of you. So this one is for you, especially. So what to look out for is it hypnotist or a hypnotherapist? Those are 2 different things, right? So hypnotist is somebody who in my opinion, somebody who hypnotizes people like for entertainment purposes and whatever. And there could be some overlap. There could be somebody who does how divine indeed. I hope you are doing divinely well this morning. So somebody who does hypnosis for entertainment might also have a therapeutic practice, although that tends to be a little weird people will do like stop smoking stuff or whatever. But what to look out for is there's no licensing anywhere that I'm aware of, except outside of the US for hypnotherapy. So anybody can throw a shingle up and say, I'm a hypnotherapist. So look for things like how long have they been around? What is their reputation in the community? Ask around, ask if you know anybody who's seen them and um, uh, how they were affected and that sort of thing. So that's my suggestion for hypnotherapy. So today we're going to talk about divinity, your inner divinity, your divine spark. I'll use different terms to refer to it because it is. In a word, it is ineffable. We're going to take the ineffable and we're going to F it. It's a little joke. That's a little spirituality joke. We're going to F the ineffable today, which just means ineffable just means oh, I just snapped the thing off my pen. We're ineffable is just is a term that means like unnameable, right? And really, truly, with our human minds, with our limited human minds, our human minds are amazing. They are incredible. They can do wonderful, amazing, cool things like create this sense of living in a 3D reality from pure sensory content that's coming in, right? Like you think you're observing the world as it is, and that's just not true. This is not how we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about connect with me or connect with your spirit, with your spiritual self. Because I'm going to talk about I'll talk about both of those things today. So stay tuned. But if you want to connect with me, you can send me a DM or you can go to my website. There's lots of ways to connect with me there. Today I'm drinking Pete's coffee. Whatever their regular medium roast is flippin' delicious. I love Pete's coffee. I used to go to a Pete's Coffee in Boston. They had a location. Good morning, party people. Yeah, all the party people are here this morning. Nice to see you. Great to see you. I hope you're doing well. So I'm going to give a quick metaphorical cosmology. So any description. So back to it. Our minds are wonderful, amazing things, and our mind and our consciousness. I think it's fairer to say that our mind participates in consciousness in a way that we don't. Our mind participates in a way in reality that we don't fully understand, in creating the reality that arises in our consciousness. Your awareness of what's going on and what's coming up out of your mind. Your mind does lots of things you're not aware of, right? We have an unconscious mind. It's actually the biggest part. Water Street Coffee. Yeah, I absolutely would. Yeah, I love flipping love local coffees. Pizza's from Seattle, so I guess it's a national chain. But Maine has some amazing coffee brewers as well. There's one called Wicked Joe, which is cool. I like the name. Very delicious. Very delicious. And there's a local one called Coffee by Design, and they make really interesting blends. I think it's unfortunate that they picked their name a long, long time ago before people were selling CBD oil, and so their logo was like CBD. And so I think like I looked at their coffee a lot and go, oh, I don't want coffee with CBD oil in it, but it's not. That's why I tried. I was like, oh, this coffee is amazing. It's really good. So anyway, drinking Pete's coffee. So any way that I can describe sort of the underlying spiritual reality is, first of all, my perspective. And that's all I have, right? I don't have your perspective. Did you miss the metaphor? Not yet. I haven't done the metaphor yet. But any way that I can describe the underlying divine reality is going to be metaphor, is going to be a map of that, because it is inconceivable, in my opinion, to the human mind. If you experience contact with it, if you experience contact with your divinity, or sort of non-dual, going into non-dual states of consciousness, it really is beyond description. Not that I'm gonna, not that that'll stop me from trying. But oh, thank you so much for gifts and that sort of thing. Appreciate it. Uh, love the gifts. I do. Um, I love the conversation and the likes and all of these things. So anything I'm going to say to describe divinity to you is inadequate to what the reality is. But we can only get close, right? It's like describe a sunset to somebody who's never seen it. Well, it's really pretty colors in the sky. Is that really going to give you the impact of viewing the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen in your life? Right? If you just like, let's say that you saw a sunset like no other you've ever seen, and you wanted to share that with somebody, and you didn't have a camera or any way, and you just had to describe that. Join my team. And you just had to describe that to somebody. Like, how inadequate would that be? Well, there were reds and purples and oranges. That's not going to give the same impact. So the same is true for when you get in touch with your divine spark. So I'm going to give you, I don't know, I'm going to give you like a couple little hints to find your way there. I can't, like in such a public forum where there's not sort of conversation stuff, I can't really lead meditation because I don't know where people are at. And I've done online guided meditations before. I'll probably do more. I'll do some recorded ones, but the really deep ones might leave you a little weird, and you might be working, you might be driving, you might, that sort of thing. And they might leave you in a state that is not conducive to those things. So we won't do that, but I will give you some pointers today. I'll give you some pointers, and I will describe for you sort of a model of a cosmological model, right? A cosmological meaning how the universe came to be, how it is, that sort of thing. And I don't think, like, I've tried to come to a model that reconciles all of the various belief systems. I can't reconcile all of them, obviously. If you think that the universe was born out of an egg laid by the cosmic serpent, again, like, I would say that's a wonderful story. It's a great, and that there are commonalities with that metaphor. I would say it's metaphoric. If you think that it's literal truth, that's cool. You're invited to do that. You're invited to believe whatever it is you believe. And don't take anything I say for truth with a capital T. It's my truth. You might take it in and say, this guy's full of it, or you might take it in and say, that's an interesting idea. Let me explore that, which I think is probably, if something I say is interesting, probably a healthier way to address it than to say, oh, I'm going to believe whatever this guy says. I'm not asking anybody to do that. So the way that I look at the creation of this universe that we live in, or the multiverse that we live in, it looks like there are probably infinite parallel universes, which is, again, mind-blowing. Oh, yeah, I know it's late where you are. I apologize for that. I usually do these in the morning, and then I've been trying to do, I know I haven't been on in a couple weeks, but I've been trying to do some at night my time as well, to sort of accommodate people in different time zones. What does the sign say there? It says, I'm sorry, it's not lit up. It's not plugged in at the moment. It says stay golden, and it's probably backwards to you guys. I think the camera flips it around. So, anyway, the way that I look at the creation of reality is that it's not a single event. It's sort of outside of time. Like, we're living in this world we're living in this 3D world that's bound by time, but time is sort of a very human construct, right? Different cultures, for example, there's great research on this going back to the 70s, I think. Different cultures have very different perceptions of time, for example, right? There are some cultures out there still to this day that don't use numeric, like we use Western, sort of Western culture and this thing. Like we use divisions on a clock to tell time, right? It's 12 o'clock. It's halfway through 12 noon, halfway through the day. We have this 24-hour clock, and that's based on a really ancient system predating Egypt, of the celestial bodies in the sky, dividing those into 12 houses. So there were 12 hours in the night, 12 hours in the day. Some ancients, so the Celts, for example, started their day at sundown, right? And so some cultures are what we call polychronic. They have polychronic, monochronic, and polychronic cultures are one way to divide, but it's way more complicated than that. Way more complicated than that. So your perception of time might feel very real, but it's learned. Your perception of time is learned by usually by your parents, your education, whatever culture you live in. If you live in a or raised in a different culture, um, then it's possible that you have a very different perception. Starting your day at sundown is legend behavior, right? Right. That's why the Celtic holidays are start like on you could say, oh, like Beltane is on May 1st. It actually begins that night. It's not like when you wake up in the morning. It's so Celtic holidays start at sundown because the day started at sundown. That was when they marked the start of the day. But there are cultures for um, there are cultures for whom time is very different. So our experience of time is learned and informed and that sort of thing. It's conditioned, but we experience it as objective reality. So so the idea of the beginning of time is a really weird one to me. We think of like, oh, the Big Bang happened 14 billion years ago, but time is not the same everywhere, right? Time is affected by gravity. Time goes differently in space than it does on Earth because we're affected by gravity. So if you know how GPS satellites work, I know I'm going down like all these rabbit holes today. So GPS satellites work by sending down like what time, like their clock signal down to your phone, GPS receivers. Well, time, because of relativity, it works differently in space than it does on Earth. I forget if it's slower or faster, but they constantly have to reset the clocks in the satellites. The satellites are run by I think the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force for GPS, and they constantly have to reset the clocks because they're not running at the same speed as clocks on Earth are. Right? So time is relative. We know that from Einstein. And the travel, if you were to travel at light speed, time would travel or close to light speed. Time would travel slower for you than it would for people who were not. Right? If you traveled away from the Earth at close to the speed of light and then came back a month later, something like 10 years would have gone by. Would you say if the inner child or teen could be the keeper of the divine spark? For example, if we wanted to journey on it, where would you start to learn more about that spark within us? Or would it be different for each person? I think the divine spark is thank you for getting me on topic, by the way. I think the inner child is sort of I don't think it's a keeper. I don't think there is a keeper. I think the divine spark is at your core, it's at your center. So if I were to journey to it, I would journey inward to find it. I would journey with intention inward to find it. And you're going to bypass everything. And that can be hard, right? Your consciousness doesn't want to bypass everything. I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing here either, where you're like, everything is wonderful because I'm, floating on a cloud. That's spiritual bypassing. No, I'm talking about is like going in and just going in deepward. So a couple of pointers here. One is, when you meditate, you can have meditation is about focused attention, really. Um, and your focus can be external or it can be internal. It can be wide or it can be very narrow, right? So, for example, I can do sky gazing meditation where I am focused on something external that is very broad, right? That is wide, open, external focus, and that is meditation as long as it is occupying my attention. Or I can focus inward, on consciousness, awareness, thought. I can repeat a mantra silently, whatever, and I can have a narrower internal focus, and that's meditation. I can do body scanning meditation. That is internal. I can have a wide open internal focus, which would be, just sitting and allowing awareness to do what it's doing, and observing awareness is a wide internal focus meditation. So you have wide and narrow as one direct. If you were to have like a chart, the x-axis would be wide or narrow to wide, and the y-axis would be internal to external, and you can put your dot anywhere you want, right? um so divine a meditation that will lead you to your divinity, your inner divinity, would be as narrow and as internal as you can get. Thanks. Yeah, that's really, that's the easy for me. That's like the easiest. Meditation is a tool for drawing the attention. That's it. It's like bait on a hook. Right? You're like, "Okay, consciousness, we're gonna pull the attention away from all of this, jumping around and all of this noise and all of this stuff." And people will think like, "Oh, I can't meditate because I can't stop my thoughts." Congratulations, you're alive. You can't stop your thoughts. It's not the point necessarily. Your thoughts will quiet in meditation. You'll give less attention to them. You'll let them pass. The part of you that is thinking, the part of you that is generating thoughts, is not the part of you that you're affecting through meditation. You're affecting your attention through meditation, right? You can place attention on your thoughts and let it jump around, or you can place your attention somewhere else, and your thoughts, the part of you that's thinking, it will be sort of like, well, eventually, if you can stick with it, will be like, oh, this is futile. We're going to slow things down a bit, or we're going to stop it for a period of time. I've seen Ken Wilber actually hook himself up to an EEG and actually stop all detectable brainwave activity. Clearly, there's still something there keeping his heart going and his respiration, but stop all prefrontal cortex activity. That's profound. Like, that's some ability there. What does it mean if somebody that is broken open? I'm not sure what you mean by broken open, particularly, but so somebody who has like no, by broken open, I usually think of what I think of sometimes as somebody who's used substances and has like thrown the barn doors open on their perception. Um, for example, I worked with a number of people who have like schizoaffective disorder, or what we call schizophrenia, and the delusions and the hallucinations that are coming to them are because they can't they've the barn doors for them are stuck open, and they're just like, there's no filter, and their mind is trying to make sense of all of this stuff that's coming. Some of it's internal, some of it's external. So we are electricity. We're the same thing as electricity. We're the same thing as light. Light and electricity are the same thing. In fact, just recently, like in the past 6 months or so, there was a study where they had observed photons interacting and creating electrons. So we are light. We're electromagnetic energy. Everything that we think of, is that. It's just that it like slows down, solidifies. Um, Work can give me a session. Why do you find interest in this type of work? It's kind of weird. I'm kind of weird. That's why. I'm a very weird person, and I embrace that. I embrace my weird. Somebody, somebody on, somebody commented on a profile of mine on like a dating site one time. They were like, "You practice shamanism, and you're a computer nerd, and you do this and you do that. That's an interesting mix." And I was like, "Thank you for noticing. I'm definitely a weird person, definitely unique. I mean, we're all unique, right?" So, anyway, let me get back on track. Being weird is cool. There's cool weird and there's not so cool weird, but I like to think that I'm the cool kind of weird. Not so cool weird is like you're weird where you want to hurt people or you don't want to. Do you have any advice for a male to female trans person wanting to come out to their mother? I don't have a lot of experience with that. Other than I have had clients, I have a long-term client who is a female to male trans person. Um, and I don't have personal experience with it. I mean, I would talk to some people who are in the same boat and have some understanding, and be prepared that it might be shocking. I don't know what your relationship is like with your mother. I know trans people who are rejected by their family at first, and then their family members kind of came around and realized this is who my child is, and we care about my child. So I hope that's the case for you. I don't know that I have particular advice for that, but as much as you can approach your mother with love and compassion and understand that it's not, the biggest change is for you, but it's also a change for her. But reassure her that it's not a change in your relationship with her, and that your love for her is the same as it always was. It's just that you are moving towards becoming who you are. And I wish you nothing but the best for that. I have had friends who have gone through coming out with to their family and to their other friends and stuff like that, and I can see how difficult that is, and understanding that and not wanting to feel rejection from our loved ones is understanding. Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I try not to judge anybody. As long as you're not harming anybody, I don't feel like I have the right to judge a single person in this world. And again, like underneath it all, what I'm talking about today, um, yeah, and that might be the case. You might have to have some conversations about it, about understand why trans people exist. You might have to just understand that hey, I'm sorry, I've got to yell at my dog for a second. Juno, hey, hey, that's not something you're supposed to have. She acts up sometimes when I'm on when I'm doing these lives. She's like, "Pay attention to me. I'm gonna steal stuff. Hey, buddy, stop taking things that you're not supposed to have. You have a trillion toys in the other room." Um, she steals stuff out of my office. Sorry, I got to get up for a moment and take something away from her before she chokes on it. She's got something she's not supposed to have. Juno, hey, drop it. Drop it. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm back. I apologize. I just don't want my dog. I don't need my dog choking on something she's not supposed to be eating. May have strong Uranus play occurs to me to say very eclectic, but that might not be true from everyone. I have no idea. I know that I'm a Pisces. I don't know a whole lot about astrology, to be honest. Um, yeah. So could be though. I have a very good friend who's a shamanic astrologer, and aim to have her read my birth chart someday and give me the lowdown on why I'm so weird and eclectic. Other than I have ADHD, that could be a big part of it as well. But that's right. Live and let live. Yeah, we should want everybody to be happy. We should not judge. Good morning. Good morning in Seattle, Washington. Good morning from Maine. Nice to see you. We mentioned electricity and eclecticism. Is that a word? Eclecticism, being eclectic. Oh, my neon looks like your hair. Cool. You must have cool hair color. I'll have cool hair colors. I don't think I could pull it off, but I know lots of people who do. My last girlfriend had blue hair. How am I holding up? I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing okay. Thank you. Thank you for saying I'm not weird. I embrace weird. I'm okay with being weird. I realize like unique may be a good word for it, but I don't mind being weird. I don't mind being called weird either. Doesn't bother me in the least. Definitely weird. My friends who know me in person are like, "You're one of the weirdest dudes we know," but that's okay. Here's Phoebe. This is Phoebe. Look at that nose on her. How pretty is she? Isn't she a pretty girl? She's been naughty this morning. She knocks things off my desk for my dog to pick up and chew. And so let's talk about divine spark a little bit. So excellently weird. Yes, thank you. Divinely weird. That's right. Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Good morning, all y'all. But good morning to you. Good morning to y'all as well. Today's topic. So we're talking about divine spark this morning. And so I want to give some pointers about how to get in touch. I'm not going to do a guided meditation. I do guided meditations in this regard, but not sort of like in this venue, just because I don't know that people are not driving to work or something. I do have people who are like, oh, I'm I have people who come on who like drive a truck for a living sometimes, and they listen in the background, and I don't want to like yeah, Phoebe is very clever. She's a clever kitty. She's very smart, and she's the queen of the house. She's like nudging. You can't see her right now. She's like nudging my hand. She's like, "You're not patting me enough. You are not patting." Oh yeah, the origin of weird. Yeah, so the origin of weird, the word weird, is tied to the Old English and Old Germanic Norse word weird, which is very tied to fate in a divine way. So weird is cool. And it's good to be weird in lots of different ways. So let's talk about divinity. And so here's my model. Here's my cosmological model. Again, it's not everybody's. It's fine. It's cool. You don't have to take this for anything. But my explanation of how I sort of understand and look through things. So at some point, the universe didn't exist in the form it does today. In fact, it's constantly in a state of change, right? At one point in the universe, there was only hydrogen and helium and no other elements, right? And then the hydrogen started coalescing into these giant balls of hydrogen that got so heavy and dense they became stars, and it got heavier and heavier and denser, and all of the elements that are not hydrogen or helium that make up our bodies, things like carbon, potassium, copper, all of those things. Off to work. Have a good day at work. Have a very good day at work. I don't know if broken open means a schizophrenic type of person. That's I didn't know. Like I was just speaking about like what I think of when I hear that, because I don't know the explanation of that. Like somebody whose perceptions are kind of broken open, and that can happen through use of substances. It can happen through, but I didn't know the person who was asking me the question might mean something else. So I was trying to clarify, and if they clarified, I missed the comment, so I apologize. TikTok's hard because the comments can scroll really fast sometimes. So, let's get back to it. So here's my model. So at one point, the universe, as we know it, didn't exist, and there was something, maybe nothing, maybe it was formless, but there was something that sparked that into creation. So maybe it was an accident, maybe the Big Bang, maybe we live in a simulation, and we're a part of a computer program that's written by hyper intelligent aliens. Maybe it was God. Maybe it was the God of the Bible. Maybe it was the divine serpent laying an egg that out of which the universe popped. Maybe it was an Egyptian pantheon called the Ogdoad that created the universe, right? But at one point there was nothing, and then there was something. There was a one thing, right? And this is talked about in Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. This is talked about in Taoism. This is talked about in mythological terms in many sort of religions. So there's in Norse mythology, you have Ginnunga gap, which is the gap between worlds. It was void, empty, chaos. Even the Bible talks about in the beginning, there was basically chaos, right? There's a whole thing about Leviathan. The word Leviathan is like a giant sea serpent that the god El fights. And it is metaphorical by many scholars, measure of the forces of chaos, right? And then things started to organize in whatever way you determine that to be true, whether there was a divine architect or just random shit, self-organizing random shit. And we have DNA-based life on this planet, and we have trillions of galaxies, each with billions of stars, and we have this amazing physical universe, and it looks like there are many, many other universes parallel to this one. But all of that, every atom in your body, everything that you are physically, and I believe spiritually, was one thing with everybody else and everything else in the universe. Every bit of the trillions of galaxies was one infinitesimal thing at one point. Like the mind, you can't really grasp that. That's why I say, like, the reality of it's really ineffable. It's really unnameable, ungraspable, right? That even just this physical reality was created from something smaller than an atom at one point. It's pretty amazing, right? So one of the ways to look at this, I like the word emanations. So we have this Godhead or source of everything, including, that is basically consciousness, basically formless consciousness. In Kabbalah, it's called, and I apologize, I don't speak Hebrew, so I may be badly mispronouncing this, but in Kabbalah, there is the Ein Sof Or, which means basically endless light. And that's the Godhead. It is endless conscious. Light is a metaphor in this case for consciousness. Endless consciousness is one endless consciousness. And that becomes this one thing. So if you look at the tree of life, it's this circle at the top of the tree of life that is sort of coalescing this consciousness into a decision-making body that says, I really want to create a physical universe to play around in, to experience things, to have experiences. And so that breaks into two things. And those two things represent the masculine impulse and the feminine impulse. Bina and Hokmah. Hokmah, Bina and Hokmah, I think, at the top of the tree. I'm sorry, my Kabbalah is a little rusty. Rustier than my Hebrew, I'll tell you, or not rustier than my Hebrew. I don't know. I don't speak Hebrew, but this much, like less than that much. So, and then all of these, these. So in the Tao, right, in Taoism, you have nothingness, emptiness, formlessness, and that becomes the one thing. That becomes the what we see in sort of the. So you get to the yin yang symbol, the taiji symbol, but before that, there's this empty circle, the one thing. The one thing becomes splits into two, masculine and feminine impulse, and that from that creates everything. So same in Taoism, same in Kabbalah, same in Jewish mysticism. Look at Norse mythology. You have Ginnunga Gap, and then you have the fire and ice coming together, and out of the ice, beings start to emerge. One of those is a we would call maybe non-binary or hermaphroditic proto-god called Emir, which is not the first. The first living being is a cow called a Dumbla, who licks the ice that's melting from the fire realms of fire and ice coming together. And so for me, like Emir represents kind of, the one thing, but you have representations of the masculine and feminine, the fire and ice, fire being masculine, ice being feminine, right? So we have that represented as well. Yes, we're taught that things are really different for sure. But there is a ton of overlap. You have to look beneath the metaphor. You have to look beneath the mythology. And not to call people, mythology is sometimes used as a pejorative, but that's just a myth, right? A myth is a story about something. A myth is a story that explains things, right? And doesn't make it necessarily not true. I think there are levels of truth, right? A myth that carries a spiritual truth underneath it still has truth to it. No story is 100% false, right? Even, stuff that writers make up have elements of, Stephen King writes about places in Maine, people writing about space battles. I'm not saying space battles happen, but they're talking about things that exist, space, and there are themes there, themes of love and themes of warfare and these sorts of things. There are truths, but reading myths as literal truth is missing the point, right? And some people get upset when I talk about that in reference to their personal spiritual beliefs, because they have to believe that their book, their holy book, or their whatever is literal historical truth. And for me, that is such a limited reading of that. It is such an impoverished reading of that. Just talking about Christianity, Jesus taught in parable. And when his disciples asked him, why do you teach us in parables? Parables are just stories. They're myths, right? They're not meant to be literal historical truth. They're meant to carry meanings. And what he said to them is, there are teachings in there that you will understand, but there are teachings in there that everyone else will also understand. So he was teaching on multiple levels using myth and metaphor. But people miss that. But it's plainly it's plain. It's written in plain language. And if you believe in the Bible, it's written in plain language in there that is what he's doing. But people want to read the rest of it as literal history. And there is some literal history in there, but it's mixed up with a lot of other stuff that is meant to not be taken that way. And yeah, it's super hard to understand the difference because stuff has changed, stuff has been translated, stuff has been added and removed, and that sort of thing. So, but there is a lot of overlap there. And the creation story is really interesting to me in the Bible because there are two creation stories in the same book. If you read the book of Genesis, there are two creation stories in there, and they're very different in the same book. It's fascinating to me that that is the case. And nowhere in the book of Genesis, I mean, it does say, the earth was created in 7 days, but I don't, that is clearly not literal, and probably was never meant to be literal, because that word can be translated in different ways. But also, the world was created by a pantheon of gods and goddesses. Not, I know now translations have it as like there is but one, but it was created by Elohim, which is plural. There's a group of folks, and the God of the Bible, the one God of Christianity, was just one of a pantheon of, we think, 70 actually, the 70 sons of God. There's writings about this, but it's lost a little bit. But I don't want to go too far down that path, because that's what information do I have on the Eye of Providence? Well, I know it's used widely by, particularly by the Freemasons. I don't have a lot of information about it, but I know the Freemasons used it, popularized it. It's been borrowed by the Illuminati conspiracy folks. It's a cool symbol, the eye in the pyramid. But I don't have a lot of information. I do have some books on symbology, so I could potentially look that up and do some research. But it's a very cool symbol. I like it a lot. I have lots of things with that symbol on it. But so that's a little bit of my cosmology. So we are all emanations of the one consciousness. Our consciousness is part of the greater consciousness. Oh, no, it's okay. It's very easy to pull me off topic, but that's fine. It's fine. I apologize. I don't have more information about that, but I know very little about it, but I know what it is. And I know historically where it's been used sometimes, but I don't know its actual origin. It is definitely meant to invoke Egypt because it is a pyramid with an eye in it, the Eye of Horus being a potent magical symbol used in ancient Egypt. So it's definitely meant to invoke ancient Egypt if it wasn't created there. I don't know that it exists in ancient Egyptian art at all, but so I don't know its exact origin. Maybe I'll have to look that up now. It'll be fun. That'll be a fun little research exercise for me anyway. So we are, in my view, we are all emanations of the same field of consciousness. And the reality that we're living in feels very individualized. Feels like we're Phoebe's tail. She's really, really like insistent today. Let's see what she's doing. So we are all emanations of one consciousness, and it feels like we are living in our own little individual consciousnesses because our experience of self is arising in this consciousness. And Thebes. About the spark, would you focus on like a body scan while going inward? I'm still trying to figure out a method to get to it. I feel like it's something I'm supposed to find and learn. Any tips on treating inguinal hernias at home without surgical intervention? No. No, I would have no medical advice whatsoever to give anyone at any time, nor am I any sort of professional. Even if I were, I would not. I wouldn't give out advice over like TikTok or whatever. I think that's dangerous and probably irresponsible. I wouldn't want to tell somebody something that could hurt them or whatever, or get sued. So I think a body scan meditation would be useful to get into a meditative state or to quiet your thoughts down. But then I would focus inward, and I would travel. The way that I would do it would be to focus on traveling inward. So one way to get in touch with the spark, the divine spark that is within you, is I've taught this a couple of times. There's a really powerful one that I use a lot, which is the I am meditation. And I'm not saying it's easy. We got a lot of stuff we got to get past. Um, but you can use the phrase "I am" sort of like a little mantra. You say it to yourself, "I am," and where does that thought come? Like trace that. Go with the intention of going inward and tracing that the thought, not the thought "I am," but the feeling "I am," like I exist. Trace that back to its origin and go as far as you possibly can. But there's a really cool practice taught by Sandra Ingerman. She calls it Transfiguration. And so if you point to yourself and say me, right? Normally, what you're doing, like when you do that and you touch your chest, like when we do that, we say me. You're pointing to your heart chakra when you do that. Naturally, most people will point to their heart chakra right here. Ooh, you can tap on that. You can feel like your thymus gland in there. Feels pretty good when I do that. I'm just going to keep doing that all day. You can tap on that and stimulate your vagus nerve as well. It's a nice little place to tap right here, right just in the center of your chest. That's not the meditation. um, but you go into there, you go in your mind, you put your consciousness there, and you go into that part, and your divine light is there, your spark is there. It's not there because physically it's not there because it doesn't have location or size or anything like that. It's completely formless. But we can visualize it as a divine light that's right here in the center of your chest. And you can go into that in your mind and then just imagine unzipping your body and your body falls away and that's what's left. What's left is you. And in this practice, the practice of transfiguration, when Sandra Ingerman teaches it, it is you're doing that to shine your divine light outward. And they've tried some amazing things with it. They've gotten like polluted water from a river in a vial and placed it in the middle of people doing transfiguration and then tested it afterwards, and some of the pollution has gone away. How does that work? I don't know. It is beyond my personal comprehension. It is a miraculous thing with scientific. We don't know how it happened, but there's scientific validation that it did happen. Right? There's a lot of things like that in the world. There was an experiment with somebody who was like a qigong, the Chinese energy practitioner, where they had like two vials of the same water in a lab somewhere 2 miles away, and they threw a dice or threw a coin or something, like, okay, we want you to focus your attention on um on vial A versus vial B, and it would change the ionic structure of the water. We are incredibly powerful. We are much more powerful than we think. We change reality with our thoughts and observations constantly. We're just not aware of it most of the time. We change physical reality with our perception, with our observation, with our mind. What's the best frequency for self-hypnosis? I assume you mean brainwave frequency. There's a couple thoughts on that. One is, depending on the work you're trying to do, alpha is pretty good. But if you want to get sort of like if you're doing it for, you just want to like build a new habit or let off some stress or something like that, alpha frequency is pretty good. And super easy to get into because you slip into it all the time anyway. Theta is where some really profound sort of spiritual effects can start to happen. Delta is probably too slow, because depending on what you're trying to do, delta is like your brain wave activity is so slow and random, you're not going to be able to do much. Like if you're trying to use self-hypnosis for like programming yourself, programming your unconscious or doing that sort of work, delta is probably not going to be too useful. It's probably going to be too slow. There are uses for delta brainwaves, obviously, because we have them. But I would say somewhere between low alpha and upper theta, depending on the work you're trying to do, and very low theta if you're trying to do like spiritual work. So that's my take. Different people might have different opinions about that. But if you're trying to drive brainwave frequency for particular uses, that's like theta opens up possibilities. Theta opens up the possibility of things like soul travel. Shamans go into theta. Shamans spend a lot of time in theta. I spend a lot of time in theta, my friends. And so most shamanic drum tracks are beating at like 200 beats per minute, which is a theta brainwave frequency, which is 4 point something cycles per second. Yes. Yes. Good. Yeah. So, yeah, you can find stuff. Sandra Ingerman teaches Transfiguration pretty openly. You don't have to be, because it's not particularly a shamanic practice. Like anybody can do it without training. So, visit you next time I soul travel. All right, I will. Where are you located? We'll have soul coffee together. Texas. Okay. All right. Whereabouts in Texas? Oh, you're in Dallas, right? I knew that. I knew you're in Texas because you're always howdy y'all. But you're in Dallas, right? Or near Dallas anyway. Yeah. I know that. I'm sorry. My brain's a little fried. This is the first one of these I've done in a couple weeks, and you can tell I'm kind of all over the place. It's all right. We're having coffee, we're hanging out, we're chatting, we're answering questions about our divinity. Um, so also within us, so we have this divine connection, this divine spark. And it can be easier to visualize it as a spark or a flame or a light. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you find it informative. Um, um, if you see me in your house, you just remember that you invited me to visit you. So I try not to intrude, but if people invite me in, that's I'm going to show up. Um, don't try not to sage me out or something. I don't know. What would happen if somebody like burned sage and it was me? Probably I like sage, so it'd probably be okay. I don't know. Some entities like sage too. I find like sage, really heavy duty. This is really off topic, but I do quite a few like space and house clearings and that sort of thing. And I don't use sage when I do it because for a couple of reasons. I find there are more effective substances. I like rosemary and cedar particularly. Um, Lavender's okay. I don't know about burning lavender. I guess you could, but I tend to use rosemary and cedar, and that usually chases away anything really heavy duty. Where sage is very mild. It will change the frequency of a space. Oh, sage give you sinus headaches. I found out that I was allergic to mugwort when somebody burned a tremendous amount of mugwort in my presence, and caused a very allergic reaction for me. I did not go into anaphylaxis, thank goodness, but I felt like I was getting, like, my eyes started swelling up and my throat started to close. And then I was like, mugwort, that's a really popular herb. And I did a little research and they said, oh, if you have allergies to like ragweed and stuff, you probably also have a mugwort allergy. And I was like, well, I do have allergies to ragweed, so I guess that's a good thing for me to know. Um, Palo Santo is helpful. Yep. I use lots of substances. Let's see if I have something on my desk here to show you. I don't. Probably if I did, Phoebe would have knocked it off my desk by now. She is a scalawag today. Oh, I do have, here's a cool thing. This is something not a lot of people know about. Yeah, I like Palo Santo. I have some. I also use fatwood, which is pine, and but it burns like crazy, so you have to be careful not to start a fire with it, and it's difficult to put out. But I like the way it smells, and it's traditional in ancient Norse culture too, in Norse Scandinavian folk magic. They use fatwood to clear space. This is Kraskaria. You could buy it online. I did because I don't have bodegas near me. This is crushed eggshell powder, and it's used to create spiritual barriers and mark off space. You could like draw a circle. You could use it like chalk to draw a circle, or cross boundaries, and it works really well. Yeah. Oh, but with bananas, I don't have any issues with bananas. I eat a lot of bananas, but yeah, if you've got, I think it's ragweed. You should stay away from mugwort. Don't take anything with. So here's a true story. So years ago, there was somebody who had business to come to my house on a regular basis. I'm not going to say who it is but this person will like come to my house and cause a ruckus. There was a reason they were coming to my house. There was a, they had a purpose for being here. But the way they came in was like they would storm into the house and like walk through the house and cause a real ruckus. And I was living with somebody at the time, and she was like, it drives me crazy the way she walks in here and like invades our privacy, and it causes a ruckus and like demands attention from everybody. And I'm like, yeah, I think like there's some really weird energy there. And so we after the last time she had left, we like smudged the house, and then the next time I knew she was coming, I took this and I drew a line across the front door. And when she came, I opened the door, and normally she would just blow into the house and start walking around the house and talking to everybody and demanding attention from everybody. She stood in the doorway and leaned in and almost bounced off the entranceway. It was really weird, almost like there was a force field there. Um, was it Phoebe? No, it wasn't Phoebe. Although I should draw a chalk circle around Phoebe. She is like, being crazy, knocking all the stuff off my desk today. Hey, which whatever. That's what cats do. But the problem is the dog picks it up and chews it up. Yep, there goes something else. I don't have any pens left. I have like 2 pens left. I keep buying pens because she knocks where if I leave a pen anywhere, she knocks it off, and the dog just crushes it. So I've had some really nasty stains on my couch because of pens that my dog decided to chew on my couch. Not a lot of fun. Anyway, I do have to wrap for the day, and I don't mean like I'm going to do some hip hop here, but I need to wrap up for the day and get my day started. I mean, it's already started with y'all, and that's great. And see, now I'm saying y'all. You got me saying y'all. I blame you. But I'm going to come visit you in Texas. So if you see me in the next couple of days, you'll know why. If you see me in your house, pay attention. I've had other practitioners show up at my house in a way like where my kids and I saw them in my backyard, and I was like, oh, so and so is here, and then we like walked through the house and they weren't there. So thank you very much. But thanks for joining in. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for joining in per usual. All right. I will. I'm gonna do it. For sure. I'll visit the next couple days. Maybe not today, but in the next couple days. All right. I'm gonna be a world traveler here. All right, Texas and Australia. I'm making a list. So yeah, thank you so much. Nice to see you. I'm hopefully going to pick up doing these more regularly again. Things settle down. I've decided that I'm probably going to be single for a while. Like I'm did a little bit of dating, and it took up a fair amount of time and effort and stuff, and didn't really work out. So it's okay. It's like the universe is telling me something where I need to like focus a little bit on other things and focus on myself and that kind of thing. So all right, I'm visiting everybody, and we'll talk to y'all really soon. Take care and enjoy. Oh, it's Thursday. It's Friday Eve, everyone, or it might already be Friday if you're on the other side of the world. I'm not sure. But enjoy, and hopefully we'll